how's it going, everybody? For today's video, we're going to be doing something a little bit different on this channel. We are going to be talking about the top 10 pitchers currently in MLB The Show. With us, we also have GutFoxx and CBrev. Their links will be in the description box down below. Definitely recommend checking them out. They're great people, great content creators. Say hi to everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
Okay, I'll edit around that, and so I'll just be
what
like...
What do you mean? That was great. That was great. This is all good. Let
like
it roll, man.
Awkward ass pause, but all right.
It doesn't matter. Awkward pause is the best. Like, that's my mating call, man. If it ain't awkward, it ain't right.
As a side note, in the top 10 pitchers, there will be some relief pitchers. It's not just going to be exclusively starters. We're going to be taking a look at everything as a whole.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I mean, like, the thing is, like, okay, how often do you guys get to your pen? I mean, I know you play against cyborgs, Sogunski. Like,
I get to my
but
pen
myself,
inning one.
Yeah.
Because I do an opener, to be fair. I do my openers to be able to decide what starting pitcher I want to go to. Because if it's someone that I go is really good, good. I didn't waste Randy on somebody else. I'm wasting him on you. And then if it's somebody not that great, all right, I'll go to somebody else that, 1 through 5, I typically understand the hierarchy of who I want to use at a specific time.
I got a question. How soon, like, so now you got a cap fielder. How soon until you do go to a cap pitcher here? Because, like, fielders are all
I've
catching
never
up with
done it.
stats.
Don't do it.
You've never done a cap pitcher?
Nope. Okay.
Really?
To me, like, I understand. Like, I'm pretty much, if you have a cap player, I don't really care one way or the other if they're like a position player, right? Because a lot of people do that. That's fine. It's pretty much just a good hitter, and they only, on average, once every 3 innings have an impact on the game, right? So, whatever. I'm one way or the other. Just simply doesn't matter to me. However, you bring out a relief pitcher who dictates essentially the whole game. And of course, you made it cheesy. You did certain things. You made them really small with a submarine, whatever. Go fuck yourself. That is different. I don't care what anybody says. Oh, use a cap shortstop. That is totally different to me.
Okay, I got 2 things.
Take them out. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, here's the thing is, okay, so say I'm playing an online game, and the person I'm going against is being kind of a dick, right? They're showing bunt, holding R2 as long as they can, doing like general jerk things. Well, guess what? I got an ace up my sleeve. I've got a cap reliever, right? Like I just threw it down on the table, and it's just sitting there. Now they got to deal with that the whole rest of the game.
Well,
so
yeah, but that's
if they
like,
want to be toxic, I can go toxic. I feel like that's the point of the cap reliever.
That is a unique scenario in which that's not how people use the cap pitcher. I'll tell you how they use it when they have it. I'm playing Magunski. Well, not Randy Johnson, not anybody else. Let me go to the 5'1" sidewinder who throws 100-mile-per-hour sinkers, 70-mile-per-hour eephus changeups. He's got a cutter at 95 that's going to go darting across the plate. So it's like, yeah, that's how I keep running into people and how they use them. That's a totally different story. If you were to actually use it as like oh, you're being a dick, you're bunt cheesing that. Oh, I'm all for it. That would be one thing, but that is not how people use them.
Secondly, if we had like a draft today of, and you had a draft between like a relief pitcher, a starter, or a position player, who's going number 1, right? Position players. Because in the end, they give more impact on the field and more consistently than a pitcher that you'll pitch once every 5 games or a reliever once every 2 to 3 games for a couple innings.
But understand, the pitcher that they use is a relief pitcher with like 100 stamina, so they can pull him out. The same way, that's the same theory of what I'm doing with my openers, right? I go to an opener to understand who I want out of my 5 starters to go to for the next 5 to 8 innings of the game. That's the point and that's the purpose. Well, if you have a relief pitcher that has 100 stamina and that you made to be the way it is, you clearly have taken a much bigger advantage because you can use them way more often.
You can get to 100 stamina on relievers?
Yeah, I've faced a reliever card that had like 105.
Really? Yeah, I've only been able to get the reliever. I got mine up to like.
Ox is about to hit the lab after this.
Yeah.
It was, and obviously 74. It's a long relief. So I've never 74. Made a cap pitcher.
So yeah,
I don't know what you would need to do, but I've definitely come across it. It was not a starter.
Yeah, I grinded it as a starter, and then you shifted to reliever and rode to the show, and that's how I got 74. But weird, so you can get up to 100. That's kind of crazy. So yeah, it's obviously valuable, and it's really a big.
Did you put like certain equipment on them and everything too?
Yeah, I got 120 hits per 9 with like 99 velo, 96 break and stuff. So it's pretty close. I don't think it's maxed out, but I guess obviously if they can get higher stamina. But anyways, I guess we got a top 10 list. Sorry for derailing you.
No. Oh, we'll do it in the same order. GutFoxx. Well, keep wanting to
Give
say
me my
number
number
one
10.
because that's I was say I see it and I go, oh, who's number one? GutFoxx. Who do you have at number 10?
Okay, should we do honorable mentions too? Like
I
the
have
other
a
videos?
long list of honorable mentions. So yeah, let's go with the honorable mentions because
Okay.
again, trying to get starters and relievers in this really hard to do in a 10 spot.
So I don't know if we're doing honorable mentions, but number 10, I wanted to talk about Fernando Valenzuela for a second because he is like, I don't know, he's such a confusing card in my opinion. Because if you can pitch with him and pitch correctly with him, he's just like, he will throw people off that are good at the game. But like I feel like on certain difficulties, like All-Star, maybe he's not as good because it's a little easier, a little wider of a gap on your pitches. But you really have to know. You got to watch a CBrev video on how to pitch with Fernando Valenzuela in order to pitch with Fernando Valenzuela. It was one of your better videos, I feel like, Brev. But like, the screwball and circle change differences, and I don't know if you guys have them in your top 10 or not. It's funky, dude. It is insane in my opinion. Like, you rarely throw the fastball. Curveball you can throw. I throw it occasionally. Haven't really used them this year, but like previous years is where I dominated, surprisingly, right? We all thought he was gonna be trash when he was talked about last year, but I wanted to talk about him. What do you guys think on Valenzuela?
I'll let Gunsky go because I have a
Okay.
lot to say.
I was gonna say, for me, I think he's BP. I understand what you're saying on the screwball and changeup. So the first time I saw him, yeah, he pulled my pants down. It was a blast. But it was then recognizing, well, okay, I can sit 2 pitches, screwball and changeup. That's what someone's gonna throw predominantly. And the fastball, I'll react in time. That's how at least I'm going to approach it. And it's just trying to pick up instantly. Is this a screwball or a changeup? And honestly, even then, you could break it down and say, I'm going to sit one or the other because it's a 50-50 shot, realistically. That's the pitch they're going to throw. And so 1 out of every 2, you'll be wrong and just take. The other 50%, you better hammer it because that's what you were looking for. That's what you were sitting on, and you got it.
Yeah, so you're sitting a pitch, which makes sense. You can do that on quite a few. But here's the thing, Gunsky, is why like your opinion is great, but it's also like not applicable to a 99.99% of people because you're insane, okay? And when you're like, oh, I think there's maybe one pitcher in the game outside of Susan Gobblecocks my cap that you don't think is BP, okay? So like you're like I could go, my entire list is gonna be batting practice to you. I don't care. But like I do care. But yeah, circle change screwball, like yeah, 50-50, but then you also have to exactly put where your PCI is, and obviously for PCI gods, a little easier. You got to know exactly where it's gonna break to.
Well, more often than not, it's also
vertical,
understanding
horizontal.
that where those pitches gonna end up. I agree with what you're saying, but more often than not, a screwball and changeup are gonna be lower in the zone. So
Yeah,
you sit there. Yes,
CBrev-
people will mix it in, but as long as you saw the pitch and that's the pitch you were looking for, it should be much easier to trace where you're going with the PCI to where that ball's ending up, regardless of low, high. That was the pitch you saw. You read it out of the hand. That's all you at that point.
And I will say about Valenzuela, the good thing about him is that he'll humiliate opponents. Like, you ever swing so early on the circle change,
Yeah.
they feel like turning off their PlayStation or Xbox. And like,
Nolan
just
Ryan
at that
is
point.
great at doing that one.
Brev, what do you got about Valenzuela?
I was gonna agree with you in the fact that Gunsky thinks every pitcher is BP. But I love Valenzuela. I have him higher than you do on this list.
Nice. I split the two.
I think he's actually, I mean, granted, I haven't used him much on All-Star specifically, but I, in theory, think he would be actually pretty good on All-Star because he's one of the few pitchers that has enough speed differential to actually get swings and misses. As opposed to some of these other guys who really have a tough time with foul balls. Like, if someone's very early on a Valenzuela circle changeup, they're going to swing and miss, which is, I think, a huge factor. I think personally as a hitter too, he's one of the more difficult pitchers to hit when you're trying to hit left on left.
I definitely agree to that.
Running
definitely agree to that.
screwballs in on the hands left on left is really nasty. So pitching left on left I think is really good. Obviously when I use them I throw screwballs and changeups high and middle. So and you mentioned sitting on one of the pitches. In my experience, even when someone's sitting on it, they aren't always even capable of squaring the pitch up. Like the timing window on the screwball is so weird that
It's screwy.
sometimes you're just it's screwy. Sometimes you're just late anyways. I don't know. I think he's really good, but I'm also pretty biased because he was pretty much my best pitcher all year last year. So
Okay.
That's hot.
Well,
So
at number
Dunsky, you going
10,
next?
yeah, I was say at number 10 for me, I did put Raleigh smell my fingers because I think starters have a bigger role than everybody else, really. Obviously, they eat the most innings, but Raleigh is somebody I will use to open to get a feeling of just who that player is going to be. Unless I recognize their name, I could say with Raleigh, they have a harder time hitting a sinker, a hard pitch, or a very slow pitch. And I could dictate off of that who I will go to from my starting rotation. So I like him as a relief pitcher, but also as an opener. And then I definitely think, do you guys have honorable mentions? So I thought you guys.
I didn't
said
say
you did.
him, but
I
yeah,
have-
go ahead. What do you got for honorable mention?
Yeah.
You want to go Gunsky, and then I'll do mine.
Yeah,
and my
I'll go ahead and
10.
go. So I have 7 because, again, with starters and relievers, not the easiest. So number 1 out of it, I think it's got to be Gregory Soto. Even though Josh Hader got a bump, with a 2-seam that has outlier, I think Soto's better. He does have control issues, so you have to pray to RNGs just a little bit that where you select a pitch, that's where it's going to go. But number 2 in the honorable mention is going to be Josh Hader. Again, lefty relief pitchers harder to come by, so they have to be mentioned as the 2 probably best options. Ryan Helsley, I don't know. Haven't used him. In theory, looks good. I faced him kind of a meh. I mean, he has the outlier fastball, which I think gives a lot of people problems, so that needs to be mentioned as a relief pitcher. 97 Shohei Ohtani, a pitcher who can rake, is always going to be valuable. I do not care. Aaron Ashby as number 5. I've used him. He's been lit up. Doesn't have that power slider that I would be looking for, especially out of a lefty that you need to run into the righties. So he's at number 5 in the honorable mentions. Roy Halladay and Tariq Skubal. He is basically Aaron Ashby. Doesn't throw as hard of a sinker, but throws a harder slider, and I like that against right-handed bats. Something that you just lock them up with. That's my 7 honorable mentions. What about you, CBrev?
Yeah, Brev's really been into those hard sliders, I think, especially up, right, Brev?
Yeah, they're amazing at getting opposite-handed hitters out. You just jam them up with off speed. It's a really awkward pitch to try to time up when someone runs a hard slider in on your hands, especially middle or up, which was a lot easier to do last year, but still happens this year occasionally.
Just due to par changes?
Yeah, since the pars get bigger when you throw off speed up this year, it's a bit harder, but sometimes you can still hit your spot, and even if you don't, it's not in a terrible spot. Like if you miss your spot, it might just end up running off the plate, which is just as good. So
oh yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, I have 2 honorable mentions, which are the best righty and lefty reliever for me, which is Raleigh and Gregory Soto. And then I just did my top 10 as starters because I just generally think starters are more valuable and easier to separate through rankings, I guess. So my honorable mentions are the relievers.
Okay.
And then at number 10, I have a tie. I have Aaron Ashby at 10, and the other one with him is the new Daniel Espino card. And I wanted to mention Espino because I haven't had a chance to use him yet, but he looks DeGrom-ish. So I was wondering if you guys had any input if you have faced him or used him yet. I know he's got super low walks per 9, so his control is probably not good, but I thought that he was probably pushing top 10, so I wanted to see what you guys had to say.
You are on the same wavelength as me in that case, because I had to put him in my top 10. We'll get to him when we do, but I haven't used him yet either. But every time I look at his card, I'm like, he needs to be tried. Like, yeah, he doesn't have the sinker meta, but he does have outlier on his 4-seam. He does look exactly what DeGrom was. And I do find that very interesting. And his slider, even though it's not like Randy is at 93, 90 miles per hour on a slider is no joke. So
yeah, and he's got the outlier on the 4-seam and the no outlier on the 2-seam, which is
that's
really
what makes
good.
Randy so good, is that you can have 2 different pitches running there at 2 different speeds. So
Yeah. Okay, he's in my honorable mentions. I haven't used him or faced him yet, but the issue is like his walks per nine is 62, and I recently saw a scan video on this, and the walks per nine is what the par is apparently. Control doesn't have the pitch control isn't the par. That's like, I don't know, like he was trying to say like how like well it feels that you can get it out of the spot, but like par size has changed based on walks per nine. So 62 per nine, it ain't the greatest, okay, and like. For pitchers with high velocity this year, it feels a little easier to hit with the outlier because it's no longer strictly 102. It'll go down. I've thrown outliers like 99 miles per hour. So it's tough to say that he's like dominant like DeGrom was last year due to some of these factors. And it's not like he's got like a Randy Johnson motion. Randy Johnson is Randy because like I remember when we first started Gunsky, I remember you saying, "Oh, Randy Johnson's like whatever," but then they changed his motion to make it like more Chris Sale-ish, and that's one of the reasons why like I thought Chris Sale when he's gonna come out was gonna be great, but then I realized Chris Sale is just like a worse Randy, and I've been facing that all year, so it was a little bit easier to like deal with. Like back when I think me and Brev first did these tier lists earlier this year, like I said Chris Sale's live series makes my list because nobody's really used to facing that, and then we started getting Randy Johnson over and over, and it's like okay. It's a lot easier to deal with it since you deal with it almost on the daily for somebody like that plays a lot of games. But I don't know. Espino I think is honorable mention for me. He's not in my top 10, and I think that's just due to maybe lack of experience. Maybe if I see him out there and I'm like, oh my god, this guy's got that it factor. But overall, slider, circle, curveball, off the fastball. I will say that two-seamer could be the make or break pitch. Although two-seamers, his break is 74 in it. Why do they give such bad break to two-seamers in this game to like every single card?
Well, that's the thing though, and Brev brought up the point why I could care less what the break is going to be on that pitch, because he's going to have outlier on his four-seam and have a two-seam that's going to run 95 to 99 is what that gap's going to be. So you have two pitches that are going to look the same but going to clearly be different speeds, and yeah, a little bit of movement always helps, but that's not why I care about that two seam, really. It's just throwing another pitch where it's like, oh, if I think you're going to be on a four seam, let me throw this two seam away. Yeah, so it looks the same. I feel like roll me over.
When I throw two seamers away down the plate, they go out of the park because they suck.
I wish they like broke more in general, like how the game works.
Yeah,
like I don't know why they have made sinkers OP and two seamers like not move at all for a lot of years. I wish two seamers broke more.
Did a two seamer like hit somebody's grandma and like kill her or something, and like now it's like a big deal, and like that's why they don't give them any movement anymore because they hate them. They want to bring problems back on it. Did it crash their like economy? I don't know what's going on. I don't understand the hate against two seamers.
I think that's the only time in my life I'll ever hear the words two-seamer and grandma in the same sentence.
We like well, it's not, so you get magic when you get the thruple together. All right, what are we on next?
I think you're up with number 9.
Yeah, with number 9.
Oh, number 9. All right, so I decided to put relievers in my top 10 for reasons. I put Soto. We kind of already talked about Soto. I like the fact that he's a lefty with a power sinker, slider, circle change, and 118 hits per 9 without any parallel level. So he feels like that. He's got that. And I don't think his windup is too readable either. So Soto, I feel like, is the best lefty. Yeah, you made a good point though, Gunsky, about Hader being close to that, and I think he is one of the better, especially with the outlier on the two-seamer.
Yeah, always plays up, so you get the max hits in case per 9. Has a good slider changeup combo. Again, you wish the slider was a harder slider, but not every card's going to be Randy Johnson at that point. So,
but now he's on the Padres theme team. How much do you think that helps him with those boosts?
Well, if we had theme teams, well, honestly, it wouldn't change anything. Damn it, because he already has max hits in case per 9, so it would have been 0.
Dang it.
Maybe you can.
All right. That's true. Who do you got at number 9? I think Gunsky's.
No, we'll go CBrev. I accidentally went out of order.
Oh, you're good. My number 9, I have Luis Castillo, All-Star Game card.
Really?
Okay.
I love primary changeups, and his delivery is a bit 3/4 as well. I think it gives his changeup a lot of downward movement. I think the combination of his delivery with his off-speed pitches is good. One of the issues I've had with him is you kind of run out of sequencing throughout the game if you use him for a lot of innings, because he does only throw 4 pitches. But I consider him kind of to be like a baby Sandy Alcantara. It's like a similar card, but he doesn't have a curveball, and throws a little bit softer on his fastballs. But I think he's really solid. I think you can do a lot with circle change sinker, so I had him in my top 10.
I got a question here. So that sinker fastball and Castillo's best thing I feel like is he's a little bit more deceptive on the release. I agree there. And like, so the sinker's got outlier, okay? And so like there's no speed differential between that and the four seam really. What's the point of the four seam? When do you throw that?
You throw it to miss their PCI. Mm-hmm. So like I'll throw a four seam like in between low and belt high. And that way, if they jam down for a sinker on the corner, they're going to be under it, essentially. The rare times I go up and in as well, that it's way better done with the four seam, since the par changes have made sinkers kind of hard to locate that hard up. But otherwise, yeah, I'm mostly sinker change up slider with that card most of the time.
Here's the difference: is you can put pitches where you want. Like I try and finesse it between the middle and the bottom. I'm putting it right down the dick hole. Okay, like maybe it's my Xbox. I feel like PlayStation might be better, just like the controller. That's what I'll blame it on. It's not me. It's the game, man.
Now you're learning.
Yeah, I'll definitely agree with you. The PlayStation controller is much better for pitching. It's not even close.
Nice. I'm validated by one of the best there is. That's good feeling, man. Yeah, but like, I don't know. Gunsky, is that kind of what you use? Because you're on Xbox. Like, I feel like if I try and get cute like that, put it between places, I'll go to one or the other.
I mean, I'm still stupid enough that I'm going to try. But does it necessarily work out as well as I think it would on PlayStation? Not, yeah, I would agree. It's going to miss more. And that's, again, my user input. It just seems like the analogs, regardless of the controller that you try on Xbox, pinpoint doesn't necessarily reflect it that well yet. And again, I do think that is just the analogs. They're probably a little bit more touchy on Xbox. PlayStation, it's a little bit more firm, like firm and fine. So the game was clearly meant in that regard for PlayStation, and it's definitely mirrored better on PlayStation than Xbox for pitching. But in terms of input delay, no, it is definitely Xbox.
Huh. So yeah, maybe if you want to be a good pitcher, PlayStation. If you want to be a good hitter, Xbox. There's trade-off. I like that. It's balance. Game balancing. We got Gunsky.
Yeah, number 9. It is going to be Devin Williams, his 90.
Really?
You're the first person I've ever met that loves him as much as I do.
I mean, again, does he at times get rocked? Yeah, I think any relief pitcher and pretty much every starter has those moments. There's nothing you can do, right? I mean, he at least is somebody that when I look at them, he has pitch speed differentials, at least with 2 of them, really. I mean, his four seam and then his cutter, circle change, screwball are all going to be the same speed, but different movements. And I don't care what anybody says. The cutter is much slower than that screwball. They could both tell me 83. That is a lie. Because the cutter, I have to sit back in eternity. That screwball, I read it and then go, by the time I go, oh shit, it's already by me. So they're 2 different speeds. I don't know what that is, if it's timing windows or whatever. Whether they say 83, they're different. So he's got a pitch that's rare. You don't see screwballs often. You got the cutter, and you got that four seam that will run up to 98 and sometimes 99, but it definitely will sit around 96 as the random show me pitch, right? I've shown you a couple screwballs, a circle change, a cutter, and I think you're getting on them. Let me try and blow them by you and keep you back to being honest.
So what do you throw the most on his pitch repertoire?
Screwball. I'm going to go to his screwball, and then I'm going to go to his cutter when I think someone may be looking for that fastball. And then if I see him sit back, well, it's time to keep you honest. Let me run a fastball somewhere.
A lot like Fernando Valenzuela that way, huh? Screwball
He
change.
throws the screwball really hard, which is good.
That's the good thing about him, yeah.
Huh.
And again, Devin Williams, I think that approach is good for one inning, not necessarily the whole game. It's just to get someone to see a different look. So I like
because the screwball's so rare. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
He's very
Is this the
valuable
guy-
in your bullpen because most of the guys you're running out there are kind of similar pitch repertoire wise, and he is different. So it's a nice mix up when he comes in.
So it's not a guy that you'd be using as an opener. One is like a change of pace off your starter.
Yeah, and again, I basically have him parallel 5, and so he would have 32 stamina. I need an opener that's going to give me at least 2 innings to get to the top of to the bottom of my lineup to then substitute them out. And then while I'm doing the whole opener thing, I get a free at bat at the beginning of the game that most people don't get. Because they have to go, oh, well, my starter's there, I can't take him out. I get to go, that's fine. Especially if you have a good first inning and you were the home team. A lot of times you'll be like, well, I've scored 2 runs, the bases are loaded, I have 2 outs because the guy just walked me to put my pitcher up. Do it, no balls. It's an opener. I'll take him out.
That's good strategy. The difference is like you're one that can execute on that. Me, it's like friggin' 6 straight strikeouts. Now I gotta go 3 innings with my opener. But that blow. I love it, Gunsky. You said you're gonna be different, and definitely didn't expect 90 Devin Williams, but hell yeah. All right, I'm up. Number 8 on my list is my favorite righty reliever. So one lefty, one righty. I went with Lopez as number 1. I think, Brev, you said Fingers is your favorite. Why do you like Fingers? I feel like Lopez, I just like the outlier sinker. As his primary, I feel like throws off more people with the velocity changes between that and like the circle change at 88. Is it just the splitter?
They're just they're just kind of different pitchers, and I will say that Fingers and Lopez are my top 2 by quite a bit for righties. But Fingers has insane control, and he's also pretty much the only viable pitcher in the game that throws a forkball right now.
And it's a drastic difference.
That's what I was gonna say. His forkball is so slow. It is obnoxiously slow, and he still throws his slider relatively hard compared to like his fastball velocity. So he's all over the place with his swing timings, and he can pretty much put the ball wherever he wants. So that's why I like Raleigh slightly more. But Jorge is obviously amazing. He's got everything you could ever want, really. Control not as good, but the stuff is just as good.
So Gunsky, do you agree with Brev there on those 2?
Oh, I completely agree. Those are my top 2 righties. As much as I even put Devin Williams into the top 10 and had wait, did I not even honorable mention him? I thought I did. I guess I did not, because I'm re-looking my list and I do not see him. Oh no, I said him at number 10. There he is. I definitely think Raleigh Fingers and Jorge Lopez, as we'll get to later, are the best righties. It's not close.
Yeah. So like, and the thing with Fingers too is maybe people are just gonna be like so distracted looking at his mustache. I forgot to add the form factor into that they'll swing through his pitches. All right, Brev at number 8.
I would just like to point out this is the only one of the 3 videos that had an Oakland A on it. So, yay me. I picked a good fan base.
Woo! Las Vegas Day is here soon, huh?
Yeah. My number 8, I have Greg Maddux.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I love it.
He's a dot machine.
He's a super dotter, huh?
A super dotter. Very annoying to hit against if you don't have success early. I can tell people switching up how they're hitting against me if they don't score fast. I think he.
What do you mean by that?
So like if you queue into a game and it's Maddux, you're like, okay, he throws slow, like this will be easy. And then if you don't score the first 2 innings, you start getting frustrated. And then when you're frustrated, you start swinging at pitches a little bit off the corner more often, and it kind of just spirals in that sense.
Nice.
In general, I have him top 10 because his control is just insane. Do I think his stuff is fooling anybody? No. Do I think you're going to strike and be out with him? No. But he's just generally a frustrating experience if you don't get on him fast.
he's a pitch to contact. That's really
Yeah.
what he is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically what you're telling me is that you're putting your entire fate into SDS's RNG machine?
Have you hit on this game? I could throw you 5 pitches in a row that you square up with Maddox, and you might not even have a base runner. So,
Yeah, point counterpoint. I retract mine.
I don't know.
What do you feel about?
I'm pretty pro Maddox compared to most of the community. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Dunsky,
don't
how do
have
you feel
that
about
faith.
Maddox?
I don't have that faith in Greg Maddox. I just had no shot. Obviously, again, I do take it. I do my best to not think of things the way I see it per se. I do hear what Brev's saying, and I do agree. But with the competition that I see, he would be a good reliever, right? He would be a good change of pace for 1 inning, is the way I see him. But he's not a reliever, so he's a starter. I don't want to waste a starting spot. Someone that I need to eat 6 to 8 innings. And they can't do that. I legitimately just see him as he does decent for 1 to 2, and then someone's gonna start getting a hold of him. He just doesn't have anything that's gonna dominate you.
The issue is like what Brett was saying is like the frustration. Like once his confidence goes up, you're right. If you can get through 1 or 2, it becomes a lot harder. Like you're right, because like the results based off pitcher confidence go way down if you can get that up a little bit. So it is a very like tilty wheel type of pitcher. So it's interesting that you put it in top 10, but I believe in it, like because like what you're saying about where you can control and put it with Maddox, and you're clearly on that. You probably, I don't know if Gunsey's going to take offense to this, but you're probably the best pitcher of us 3. So I will 100% believe your opinion on Maddox being that dude.
Well, Gunsky is a better hitter than me by a mile, so I guess we can call it even.
Let me say, definitely on Xbox, I think pretty much anybody is better pitcher than me, and it's not even close. Like honestly, getting a perfect release on Xbox is gonna happen. Like if you're good 70% of the time. Like that's if you're good. Like it is rough to do on Xbox at the moment. I don't care what controller. At least for me. I mean, maybe there is people who have mastered it, but I have not. But at number 8, this is where I decided to put him. So I haven't used him. I think it was a common theme with all of us. But again, I agree. I look at him and go, it's very DeGrom-esque. Yeah, the balls per 9 may scare me away a little bit, but then he's got decent enough control. But his hits and Ks per 9 for a starter are elite. And that's going to be Daniel Espino. It's just, again, it's not the sinker meta. It's nothing like that. But I do look at him as like Randy Johnson. That's who I compare him to. The outlier 4-seam, a slower 2-seam. He's going to have a good slider, a good changeup off of it, and then the curveball you show at random points. I mean, that's really all there is to it.
The 15+ mile per hour difference between his 4-seam and his circle change is actually incredible. I wasn't thinking about that as much, but like the more difference you have between those 2 pitches, the absolute better of a pitcher you are. And I didn't look at it earlier, but yeah, he might perform if you main those 2, because that's dramatic.
I mean, again, this is the one thing I want to compare him to, because I haven't done it yet. But after I said it, I was like, yeah, what does Randy Johnson's slider say? 91? So think of literally, after that, just literally stare at Randy Johnson and look at Espino and go, what's the difference?
The release. Espino's release is going to be much easier to pick up. The release? Like Randy Johnson,
I mean, I haven't used him, and I haven't faced him, so I don't know if he has a funky release or not.
I don't think he does.
Slurve is definitely a game changer for Randy.
I do agree. The Slurve at 81 is a good pitch, but I think a curve being at 82, like I use his Slurve in similar fashion, but I do definitely think you're going to get more swings and misses on his Slurve. But that's not the main pitch I use with Randy. The main pitch I'm always using, 4-seam, splitter, 2-seam. I'll throw the slider in as a bailout pitch against a righty. Usually locks him up, and that's only 2 miles per hour faster.
Wow. You actually use the 2-seamer that much, huh?
Against a lot of the good players, yes, because they are able to instantly turn on that 4-seam, but I'll just keep throwing the 2-seam until I go, oh, He sat back. Now let me flash the four seam and get you late again, keep you honest. That's what I think it's good for. That's what I think having a four seam that's going to be in the outlier category and then a two seam that's not is beautiful. It's a 5 to 6 mile per hour difference every time. That is like, again, it's an in-between changeup. So you better, I mean, if you're sitting changeup, that might get a little scary, but it will never look like a changeup. So I'm not concerned about it.
Do you notice the seam differences between the four seam and two seam at all? Does it look
slightly? But I mean, even then, it's not enough
Kinda
that
looks
I
like
instantly recognize it.
looks more like a slider seam almost on the two seam.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Man,
no, I
too old to see
that?
seams. I'm gonna sit out of this one.
You just gotta sit closer to the monitor.
I gotta get that strike zone zoom.
You got to do what I've seen like keyboard and mouse players do, where they will have the monitor sitting like on the desk facing up at them, and so they're like looking down on it. And I went, what is that? I'm like, people play like that? There's no way. But like some of the really competitive keyboard and mouse, yeah, it's literally what it's like. Like, that would be interesting. Maybe I have to do a video where I try that out, because what if that's the glitch?
Yeah.
What if, I mean, if they're doing a mouse and keyboard, I mean, they must know something.
Legunsky single-handedly increasing the revenue of chiropractors all around the world.
Classic. All right. 7. Might be a hot take. I don't know. I'm gonna go with Aaron Ashby. I lefties that got a little outlier. It's something you don't really see too often. Well, outlier the sinker. I mean, outlier Randy you see every 5 games or so right now. But I don't mind it. I like 101 hits per 9, maybe a little bit behind what we just saw. But like sinker, slider, circle, curve, yeah, a pretty decent repertoire. It's everything we've said about other guys. We say about this one, he doesn't have a screwball, nothing screwy like that. But that's what I got for Aaron Ashby. Any thoughts on that, Gunsky?
Oh, I'll tell you. I think
he's
again, this is yes, but I legitimately think a lot of people should think he's BP, because the one pitch that changes a card, a really good changeup. I think Ashby has a decent one, if I'm not mistaken. It's not
Circle
bad.
change,
yeah. It has a good enough speed difference. Ish. I mean, again, it's at 88. I mean, you're risking it. But what would have made him dominant by far would have been that his slider was at 90. At that point, I go Aaron Ashby is one of the better pitching cards in the game. But because he has a sweeping slider, as opposed to like a hard run it in on the hands onto a righty, pitching lefty to somebody is always going to be easier, right? They're going to struggle turning on some pitches, and then you go away with a changeup, throw the 12-6 in the dirt, right? There's plenty of ways to approach a lefty matchup where I don't need that slow slider. That's what the slow slider is good for, is a lefty matchup. I want that hard slider because it's a lot harder to pitch to somebody lefty righty when I could go, I'm going to throw that slider in, and odds are you're going to be late and I get a free out. I just mix it in. So I like a pitcher like that.
It's crazy to hear that, because I think we talked about that a little earlier, and Brev's mentioned it before and stuff, and usually differential between pitches is so important, but like seeing like the differential you're saying being narrower on those two, it's like it's like a unique breaking pitch that we don't really think about that with any other ones. But yeah, I see that you're right. I mean, I will not disagree with that logic, and maybe that's why he's not higher on my list. But Brev, any thoughts on Ashby, or I don't know if he's on your list, or what do you think?
Yeah, I had him at 10.
Oh, that's right. He was at 10.
Obviously, Gunsky plays like the best players in the world consistently, so not to take anything away from his opinion, because it's really valid. He plays like the best players, but specifically with Ashby, I think he's pretty good against lower competition because, like you said, Fox, you don't see outlier sinker from a lefty very often, and I think his delivery helps a little bit. It's pretty tough to read on the sinker specifically. If somebody can hit the sinker, it's going to be a lot harder to pitch with them, but I think there's a lot of people that don't have a ton of reps against him that are going to struggle to hit the sinker, so that's why I think he's okay to good. Definitely not a world ender, but
I got a question. What do you guys use curveballs for this year? Because I don't really see any swings, and if I do, they're all falled off. Do you guys throw them much?
I mean, in a 5-pitch arsenal, yeah, it's the one I'm going to use the least.
Yeah.
But there is a good use for it, especially as I'm talking about a hard slider. Where is this curveball sitting at? Because I do think, like, say, I'm trying to think, like, Espino, I haven't used him yet, but I think he would be a good example of this. His curveball is going to be at 85, I think it said. And so people are typically used to seeing a curveball go low in the dirt and be slower, as opposed to a harder, quicker breaking curveball. And I think that's a good pitch to probably run into a lefty middle in. They'll probably be late on it. The same way I would use a slider in that same scenario where I go, yeah, you're going to read this, but you're not going to read it correctly. And I'll be honest, I have that same problem at times. Like, someone could throw a slider, I read it, but my reaction is telling me to sit back when I still need to be ramping it up faster. And so I'll just be jammed up and be late, and they get a free out. I do think a curveball, if it's hard, is good for that.
Yeah, can you throw the curveball at that speed, 78, anywhere in the zone with confidence?
Well, with ash speed, no. But if it's a hard curveball, yes.
I don't think I ever throw a curveball like a single time. Ash speed.
Really?
Yeah. And well, it's not
even.
It doesn't have any glove side break either. Like, it's a 12-6, which is like the worst curveball.
Yeah.
Like, the way I use curveballs is pretty much what Gunsky said. I run them in on the hands on opposite-handed hitters, and the 12-6 at 78 doesn't accomplish either of those goals. So,
do you ever like throw like the fastball above the zone and then throw the curveball to nick the top of it?
Was a lot easier last year.
Yeah, not so much now.
Yeah, I don't do it at all this year. That pitch is going to end up middle.
And it's gonna hang and get banged. I will say curves feel like they hang more than any other pitch in the game.
Yeah, even on get inputs, they just like magnetize to the middle of the zone.
It sucks. All right, number 7 for you, Brev.
All right, my number 7 is Valenzuela, who
Nice.
we talked about before. I
yeah.
said, I legitimately think he's the best pitcher for lefty-lefty matchups. So that's why I have him as high as he is, and a great pitcher for getting swings and misses. What'd you say, Fox?
It's so strange because like you think somebody that'd be good lefty-lefty would be like a hard thrower that like could just blow them by and they have to react to that inside and like a curveball or changeup outside. But Valenzuela, huh?
Yeah, well, the timing window on his screwball is just so messed up. Like, something's wrong. Or like same with Devin Williams. Like, screwballs thrown that hard, their timing window is so weird. Like, yeah, you're just late all the time when you think you shouldn't be.
Do curveballs have that same thing?
No.
A hard curveball, I think, kind of fits that mold. Not as drastic, but I definitely think a hard curveball, not only because you don't expect it to be hard, so you're caught off guard, but then, yeah, it does seem odd. At least the times I've been seeing some hard curveballs run in the way I'm talking about. It may be a tad off, but could just be unexpected. That could be it too.
Weird. Okay, Gunsky, what about you at a 7?
Number 7, even though I think he is complete shit for the competition that I play against, I do think, because I want to take this from a holistic view. I mean, yeah, against top players, but also I want to see clearly how other divisions are going to be playing. I do think the 97 Corbin Burns is a good pitcher against other competition. 7, huh? Yeah.
So, okay. I got him a little higher if you couldn't tell.
Mm-hmm. I mean, again, the reason why he's there is I think he needs to be mentioned. But in my opinion, the people that I play and when I face him, I go, hey, BP, let's go. Like, he's going to throw the cutter and the sinker at the same speed. He's going to have a changeup that's ass. His curveball, I actually think, is a decent pitch because it's a harder curveball. But his slider is readable as all hell, too, because it's a slower sweeping slider than it is hard.
Well, slider's 88, which is only 1 mile off of what's his name's
Espino, but it really depends because the break on his is weak, or at least it comes across that way. I don't know if it even shows it on the card, but the pitch break is really low, so it makes it so much more readable. Randy Johnson's, as an example, that thing is moving, so you're going, oh, this should be coming in slower, and it's just running in at 92 to 95. It's like a power cutter.
I think Corbin Burns, because we all saw him so much last year. I think maybe his release is just so readable.
Yeah.
And his slider's got 96 break on it on the card, but I think maybe his release is the reason why it doesn't move as much as say Johnson's.
Yeah, I do think what Corbin Burns, the reason why I don't think he's that great, he lacks from a really dominant off-speed pitch. If you were to able to have that sinker and cutter with a changeup that would say 80 miles per hour, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's going to be problems there. But his changeup's around 90. His slider is 90. Everything he has, it's like it's this timing window that you could just sit there and foul everything off until you get that pitch you're looking for. Because nothing's going to be drastically slower or faster. You could just kind of sit in this one spot and wait. If you get fooled, yeah, fouling off. That's how I approach him. That's how I think a lot of the people I constantly play approach him. Because when I use him, he gets lit up. When people use him against me, he gets lit up. But I definitely have noticed, like when I watch other streams, people on lower difficulties and stuff, or maybe newer to the game or whatever, they struggle hitting him.
Brev, reaction?
Huh?
Reaction to Corbin Burns and Gunsky saying he's pretty much trash?
Yeah. The more Legend I play, the more I tend to agree. I just think he doesn't fool anybody that's cracked at the game, but I don't know that there's many pitchers that do. I actually threw Corbin last night on Legend, and I got mercy ruled by Nutty, so that was fun. But yeah, I mean, Hall of Fame All-Star, pretty good. I have him higher on the list, but definitely a valid opinion. I think 7 is a fine place for him. I actually put him way higher on the tier list I just posted, but he's moved down in the last couple days just from getting rocked. I don't know. Maybe it's me.
I think that's fair. Yeah, crazy. All right, number 6 for me, I have somebody that's Sandy. He's out on a beach somewhere. I don't know. I lost the dog. I'm terrible at these puns. I think Sandy, like his sinker, like again, he's got a velocity right there. Outlier 2 on the sinker, same speed as his 4-seamer. Slider, curve, circle. Basically something that we've talked about over and over again about the same repertoire that a lot of pitchers have. But there's a reason why it keeps getting mentioned on these lists, because it's just an effective thing, right? Sinker, slider, circle, and then a show me curve with decent hits per 9. And so like he kind of hits that. I don't think he's super hard to read though, which is why I don't have him much higher on the list. But Gunsky, go ahead and shoot down my dreams here. Why
no, you're actually gonna be surprised where he ends up on the list for me.
Interesting. Okay, Brev, any thoughts on Sandy?
I have him higher than that as well.
Okay, looks like. We'll go on.
Yeah, I think there's quite a few minor differences between Sandy and Corbin that make Sandy a lot better. I think he's pretty good overall. So yeah, I have him higher personally.
All right, we'll talk about it when we get there then. Who's your number 6?
My number 6 is Burns.
You got Corbin at 6. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Which 3 days ago I had him at 2, so that can tell you some things.
One little mercy rule brings them all the way down.
It was not 1.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just a product of me grinding a little bit harder in the Legend ranks, but pretty much agree with everything Gunsky said, and I can see why people struggle to hit him at lower difficulties. I just think higher competition has not only seen Burns a lot, but has seen the pitches that he throws a lot. And again, his delivery is not that, doesn't really fool anybody. He's as simple as it gets, really. So.
Wow, crazy. What? How often do you guys throw the cutter with him? With Corbin?
I would say
about as often as the sinker.
Yeah, I was gonna say 50-50 split, really.
Really? So
it's
that's
like
quite a
50-50 cutter sinker, and well, more than that probably. I don't know. I don't throw his changeup and slider that much.
Really?
Huh? I don't know. We should track it in a game sometime.
Yeah, just like look at it after the game.
Well, that's what I meant with Corbin. Is his he suffers from a crap off-speed mix.
Yeah.
Like nothing's gonna strike somebody out. At least with Sandy, I go, well, he has that hard slider that I could run into lefties and have a good time with. He has the changeup at 88, but it has good break. So yeah, it's not slow enough, but I use it as pitch to contact. Run in a hard curveball You can, fool somebody still with a sinker up and in if he's going to locate it. There's different ways with Sandy I can approach somebody as opposed to Corbin. I do think what, CBrev said is very true. They may be similar, but their differences are outstanding. They are very different.
Wild. Okay. All right. It's blowing my mind. But yeah, number 6. Who you got there, Gunsky?
Number 6 for me is going to be Nolan Ryan. Now,
okay,
it's interesting because I think if somebody uses him correctly, I would be putting him 2 or 3.
Could not agree more.
Yeah, I was going to say, I just think people are just in love and horny with 102 fastballs and make him super easy to predict. I think the best thing that you can do, because you need to approach things like, if I see someone with Nolan Ryan, my first expectation knowing these things is you're going to throw me that fastball. So I'll sit it or the sinker, but I'll be looking hard and then adjusting slow. Okay, I'll tell you how I'm going to pitch with him. I'm going to be using his changeup more. I'm going to be throwing his 12-6 more, and then I'll be throwing his sinker more than his fastball because I know you want that 102. I know that's what you're looking for. That's what you're sitting on. And if you show me you're sitting on that changeup, cool, then I'll go to his 102 because he's got an insane difference between his changeup and fastball. So he has, even though with only 4 pitches and not necessarily the greatest control, those speed gaps are drastic. And his 12-6, it's a very different 12-6. That thing is nasty. And I'm looking at it now. 99 break makes sense. He's a card that I need to pick up. I basically probably after we're done with this, I'm gonna play a couple games and I am gonna try Espino and Nolan Ryan because I faced Nolan Ryan 3 times. 2 times I lit him up because I didn't think were using him appropriately. Played one person who did exactly what I was talking about, and I was not having fun.
Yeah, me and Brev have talked about this on previous lists. Like these people that have like an outlier fastball and then a sinker, it's almost you want to primary the sinker, and then like you can go 2 directions with it. So it's great. And like we were talking about this earlier, with the circle change being that dramatically different than the fastball is crazy. So Brev, I got to ask you this question. The 12-6 here, you were just recently shitting on 12-6s with Ashby. What do you think about Nolan Ryan's 12-6?
Nolan Ryan has a special 12-6.
Yeah.
Well, number one, he throws it so hard. Like it's the same with Duran out of the bullpen. Thrown that hard makes it a lot less hittable. Whereas Ashby's was high 70s, which is just too slow. But even still, when I'm using Ryan, I don't throw the curveball too often. It's a lot of sinker changeup four seam. And yeah, I think Nolan Ryan used appropriately is one of the best pitchers in the game. I agree 100%. I constantly see this narrative that Nolan Ryan is bad against good players, which I just don't agree with at all. Good players are good at hitting 102, so if you throw 102 against good players, then he's bad against good players. But if you use him in a proper manner, I think he is extremely good, and he's again one of the few pitchers that can get lots of swing and misses this year, which is kind of rare since people foul everything, but Nolan is notorious for being able to get those swings and misses.
And again, I think the reason why I have him at 6, I just want to make it clear, if used appropriately with the right person behind him, I like him at 2 or 3, probably 2. But I don't think a lot of people, like, it's a knowledge gap, right? If you pitched in real life and you also understand meta in the game and you could combine those two, then you know how to use Nolan Ryan effectively and appropriately. And that's what makes him a much better pitcher. But I don't think a lot of people necessarily have that. And it's not like an easy to use card like Corbin Burns per se, right? Cutter sinker, there you go. Go nuts. That's all you're doing. Nolan Ryan, it's a lot more surgical in a way, right? You need to know when to play off of the sinker, and the fact that people would instantly go like, oh, I want to throw his fastball, it's 102. And not, at least for sure, not against good competition, dude. You want to use that sinker and change up mostly, throw in a 12-6 to mess with them, and then that 4 seams the show me pitch.
I think also Nolan Ryan's biggest issue is like it's not comfortable pitching with him because you don't have a slider, you don't have something that goes horizontal, and so like I've oftentimes found myself when I pitch with him, I'm like, man, a slider would be so good here after setting up with these pitches, and I just don't have it. So I'm like, dang it, do I go back to a vertical breaking pitch? And so I feel like that kind of plays into it a little bit. But let me go to my number 5. I'm gonna have Bob Feller here. Talk about somebody with that sinker fastball type of thing. And the reason why he isn't higher is obviously due to the walks per 9 on the card. And I think very similar, but he does have the slider. So 86 mile per hour slider, so not as fast as maybe some other guys. Changeup at 81 is a really powerful tool also. So having that same sinker, 4-seam, along with a decent changeup and a slider is why I got Bob at number 5 for me.
I think Bob is shit. He is.
You do, really?
Yeah.
Let's hear your
I
Bob
faced
take.
him, light him up. I mean, there's that. So yeah, so there's that problem. But when I used him, he got lit up. It didn't matter what level of competition. While also at the same time, he is Bobby Miller, but 10 times worse because his control is so bad. Like Bobby Miller's isn't great, but it's doable. Bob Feller, I could throw it. I could try and throw it down the middle, and at that point, it still might end up being a ball. Like it was that bad.
Yeah, but here's
couldn't
the thing.
believe it.
Here's the thing, Gunsky. If you have no idea where the ball is going, your opponent won't either. It's called, you can't sequence, and they can't pick it up if you don't know which part of the zone it's going to. So that's some big brain stuff. I just want to let you know on that one.
Well, fair point. And if at least like say with Nolan Ryan, where I think there's deception in there, I think he's doable then. All right. If I don't know where it's going, neither do you. I kind of feel that way with Nolan Ryan at times. But his pitches have that deception. Bob Feller's do not, in my opinion.
Really?
Do you think I'm right in saying that, CBrev?
No, I actually disagree. I think Feller's stuff is really good. But you obviously play a lot more Legend than I do. His control is god awful. A lot of the times, even when I miss my spot, I feel like I'm not getting punished because his stuff just moves a lot. And also, he's got the non-outlier sinker with the outlier 4-seam, which is a great dynamic, just like Nolan. So I don't know.
That's why I thought I would have loved him. Like that's because that was the first thought in my head. I was like, outlier 4-seam, slower sinker, let's go. And it really was just the lack of control that broke me quickly from him.
Yeah, he's very hit or miss, I would say. Like some games, it feels like he's hanging everything, and you're giving up a ton of bombs. And then some games, it feels like he's hanging everything, and your opponent just isn't hitting it. But regardless, he's just hanging everything. So I don't know, bit of a wild card. I'll segue that into my number 5, which was also Bob Feller.
Oh, nice.
And I had him actually tied for this spot. So I had a 5A and a 5B with Bobby Miller.
Okay.
I want to hear Gunsky's input on why Miller is 10 times better than Feller, because I looked at them pretty similarly. So I'd like to hear that.
Yeah. I mean, I agree that they're relatively similar. However, maybe it's been good luck or I wouldn't even know what to point to, because I agree. When you look at them on paper, you're damn identical. But Bobby Miller, at least in my experiences, much better control. Even though at times, yes, he's going to get wild. Yeah, he's not going to locate. You could get 4 perfects in a row, and there's going to be 4 balls. It's frustrating. But his stuff is good. And usually he bounces back pretty quick, where it's like, I just threw 4 perfects, and he missed everything terribly. And then it's like, I just now dotted 3 splitters in a row. Awesome. Like, he at least has that bounce back where, and again, in a small sample size with Bob Feller, the moment in that inning where it was like, oh God, he's becoming inaccurate, it never changed. I couldn't get something to locate.
That's when you throw like a fastball down the middle of the plate, because they'll throw their PCI down to the bottom of the plate and think it's gonna be a breaking pitch, because nobody throws it down the middle. Bobby does have. I'll tell you right now, I got Bobby higher on my list because he's got 19. Well, I guess 17 higher walks per 9 than Bob Feller, and that's only the reason why I have him higher on my list. They do play pretty similarly for me though, those two. Yeah. All right. Next up is Gunsky. Gunsky shit on every single pitcher. Who the hell do you have?
Well, say at number 5, I put value in him here, and I can't wait till you hear number 4, dude. I think you guys are gonna lose it. But number 5, it's Jorge Lopez, because I think he's my go-to reliever, and I don't think obviously I'm gonna put him in the top 4 because of that, but I wanted to put a little extra value on that. That, you know, in a pinch, in a bind, that's who I'm gonna lean on, that I trust the most in my pen. So that's simply why. And we've talked about him. He's number
Absolutely
5
agree.
just
Yeah.
because of that.
Yeah, I agree with that too. So it's on me for 4.
4.
We kind of just went over this guy, so we're not going to rehash too much of it. I got Nolan Ryan at 4, for his, you know, like what we just talked about, sinker, fastball, off speed stuff, the changeup specifically. Like I almost feel like at times like I don't throw the 12-6 at all. I'm like, well, I throw a 12-6 when I know that the changeup's not going to get fouled off. Like I feel like curveballs, you can throw it wherever, and they always.
Well, I'll
just
tell you
curve.
this
So,
right
like,
now: use the curveball not for the strikeout pitch. That's the pitch to contact, a weak contact typically, because again, that curveball moves and it is fast, and it even throws me for a loop when it randomly comes in. And I think that's how you're supposed to use it. The changeup's more of the strikeout pitch, but the 12-6 is more of like, yeah, I'm just looking for the weak contact. Here's the get me over.
Yeah.
The nice
so
thing,
you actually throw you throw it for a strike.
I would throw it like, say if it's a lefty, I would throw it. I would be more inclined, depending, again, it depends on your opponent, but I'd be more inclined to throw it inside, middle of the plate, and then against a righty, same spot, but now obviously to them it's away, because I think
Gotcha.
people are more willing to pull off with righties because they're horned up for the fastball in, but the lefties, they're willing to sit back a little bit more because it's easier to turn on a pitch. So it surprises one way and surprises the other.
Brev, you're gonna say something?
yeah, his curveball breaks so much that it tunnels really well with high fastballs too, which is obviously one of Nolan Ryan's bread and butters. And when you're throwing the curveball to end up like belt high, like Gunsky's saying, that tunnels really well with fastballs slightly above the zone, which is one of Nolan's better out pitches too. Because with the low hits per 9, K per 9, he's less likely to get burned on a pitch like that, throwing it a bit above the zone in my experience.
Until they throw their PCI 10 feet out of the zone and take it deep with it.
Yeah, but their PCI is way smaller, so maybe they won't.
True, a little harder that way. All right, next up on the list, number 4 for Brev.
Okay, I haven't seen either of you guys bring this guy up yet, and I can't imagine he'd be higher. So now I'm kind of embarrassed that I have him at 4. But I have
Who you got?
Al Leiter at 4.
Interesting.
Okay.
I like it. Okay. I don't have him higher. I will say that.
Let me tell you why I think Leiter's good. So personally, he's one of the harder pitchers for me to hit in general. Obviously, he's got sinker cutter, doesn't throw hard, but the thing that is so good about Leiter, we've been talking about how good it is to have a hard slider, right? These guys that have outlier, it's great to have the hard slider. You can run it in on the hands. Well, Al Leiter still throws his slider 88, despite the fact that his sinker is only 93. So he's got the hard slider that's only 3 miles an hour slower than the cutter, which you think would be bad, but it creates a dynamic where two pitches are going roughly the same speed, but in wildly different levels of direction. So like the slider... Sorry, go ahead.
No. I'll let you finish.
So like the slider breaks a ton, you can run it in on the hands, and similarly the cutter like barely breaks, but they're almost the same speed. So I think he's one of the better lefty pitchers at pitching to right-handed hitters. And obviously that's just speaking off of his slider, and he's still got sinker cutter to go along with it. So I think it's a good all-around card. The only thing about him is no changeup, which is kind of awkward to use. So
yeah, I was gonna say that against righties, like you said, one of the better ones. But like I'm like, well, damn, I love running the changeups against opposite-handed hitters. So how do you deal with that? You don't got nothing.
Yeah, you
really
kind of have to
change up
use. It's weird. It's like the cutter's faster than the slider, but the cutter's almost your changeup, and the slider is the pitch that you try to get them to swing late on. If that makes sense.
That's kind of.
Yeah, I think he's fun to pitch with, and I personally think he's really hard to hit. Like I always suck when I face him. So.
Well, the issue with Leiter is I didn't respect this year's Leiter because his hits per 9 is 23 lower than last year's.
Yeah.
And so last year's when that no hitter came out with 125 hits per 9 and dominated online for a while, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense because not everybody really had tons of contact at that point. And this year when it came out, I'm like, dang, Al was good last year, but this year with only 102, he feels a little bit more human. But you're saying this year he's still dominant.
Well, I think he throws his slider slightly faster even than last year, and because his sinker cutter is like not thrown hard. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're looking at the card, right?
Yeah.
What's his velocity rating?
83.
83.
Yeah, so his velocity rating can go up with parallels, which could actually make his slider get thrown even harder. We talk about the hard sliders on guys with outlier, but those guys typically already have max velo. But the parallels increasing the velo on lighter could increase the velocity of his slider as well, which...
Well, off-speed are kind of weird and backwards. The more you increase the velocity on off-speed pitches, the slower they go.
But not on sliders. Sliders go harder.
No, sliders different? Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's kind of badass.
I don't know. Just off the cuff, number 4, but part of it is the fact that I really struggle to hit against him, too. I think that's a valuable factor in determining like who I think the best pitchers are.
I mean, I
That's
definitely
how I
agree. I need to
determine it,
try
too.
him out. It's just, yeah, every time I saw him, even last year when he was one of my better pitchers for quite some time, I always see no changeup and go, damn. Like, that goes against how
Yeah.
I like to pitch. So I definitely need to
kinda
give him a shot. I think he should still be good.
It's like Nolan Ryan that way. It's not comfortable to pitch with him, but he's still effective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, I'd be interested to see how the hits per 9 plays out this year. Because people like, as the year went on, people stopped running Al Leiter out there, even though he still had, like, max, hits per 9, just because, like, outlier guys came out. So I figured it was the same thing, but worse this year. Interesting. Okay, number 4 for set. All right, who you got, Gunsky?
The big surprise. Number 4,
Okay.
Oakland Athletic, Paul Blackburn.
Really? I like his
There's
control.
no shot.
So this was the card that I remember playing Zazie, and we ended up friendlying it because I was like, dude, I have no pitching. Like, I was just hoping to get a random and then maybe get him to rage quit with my bullpen. Like, I have nothing because I played a hell game right before. And he was like, oh, I highly recommend using Paul Blackburn. And I went, no fucking shot. Like, I look at that card and go, BP, he stinks. Well, let me tell you, not only have I used him a good amount, and he's got a whip barely above 1. So that should shock you. Really big time.
Yeah.
Against really good players and everything. I faced him, and it took about till the 5th or 6th inning where I finally started to get a hold of him. And even then, I mean, I only scored 5 runs in 5 or 6 innings. I deem that as pretty good to hold me to that.
Yeah.
He, for me, when I've used him, done well. When I've seen him, it's just he's a dot machine, right? He's a little bit faster. Greg Maddux is a good way to really look at him. Really high control, good balls per 9 at 112. Every pitch is basically 90 control, except for a circle change. He's got good pitch break, not necessarily on his sinker, but I think that's deceiving because his sinker breaks a lot in game. I think it's also due to it being slower, so it moves. But his cutter's at 97, pitch break 12.6 at 99. His changeup's good. You can locate it. You could just dot your life away and still keep people honest with his other pitches. The amount of times I blew a 4-seam by somebody was surprising.
Blazing 92 miles per hour.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, anytime it says 92 on here, especially with 4-seams and sinkers, it really means they hit 94 to 95 in game. Because the lower pitch speed guys tend to hit their max pitch speed more often than the low end. Doesn't mean he doesn't, at time. But like when it says, oh, Randy's, 2 seams at 97, yeah, it's actually typically going to be lower. Like it usually hits 96, 95. I have seen it hit 99, which I went, whoa. But, I mean, so I think Paul Blackburn really sits around 94 to 95 on his sinker and cutters, or his sinker and 4-seam.
It's that incredible control, huh? That
Yes.
makes it so easy to pitch with him.
And again, I think Greg Maddux pitches too slow to get away with that theory. That's how I think of it. But Paul Blackburn is just enough where it's like he's got that super really high control, and his sinker's gonna at least be 94. So fine. Like, fine, I'll deal with it. And it's worked.
Yeah.
It's worked well. So I used him
interesting,
in my
like,
starting rotation.
You and Brev both got a couple of really nice control pitchers on your list, but like you think about them so differently. I don't know if Brev, I would assume you don't have Blackburn on here?
I don't, and honestly, I kind of just wrote the card off when I saw him. I will
Yeah.
say that I also faced Blackburn yesterday, and it was only on Hall of Fame, and it also took me several innings to even get anything going. I was getting dotted exactly on the corners for most of the pitches that he was throwing, so that's someone I'll definitely be taking a look at. It's kind of true that it doesn't make sense that I would like Maddox and not like Blackburn, so I'm gonna definitely give him a shot. I'm also enjoying the fact that we have an Oakland A in a top 5 list. So.
You wrote off your own team?
Yeah,
How dare you?
I was over there hyping up Taylor Ward when everyone was like, boo. Like, no, he's the best catcher in the game right now.
Fake
top
fan.
5 is definitely shocking for Paul Blackburn.
Yeah, I will agree with that one.
But I believe.
All right, well, I'm just gonna go ahead and write this name down, Corbin Burns, and we can just move on to the next one.
It's hilarious.
I think so many people just still struggle against this shit. That
They do.
I think that's fine.
There's
for
a
me.
lot of people that cannot hit him.
But yeah, if you're a top player and you've seen Corbin Burns, you've probably seen Corbin Burns hundreds of times by now, right, Gunsky?
Yeah.
Well, you
I
got to
mean,
think
mainly I
about.
look at Randy and him more often.
Yeah,
than
the
anybody else.
progression last
Well-
year was like live series Burns into player of the month Burns, and then we got a finest Burns at the end of the year. So it's like then we get more
Yeah.
Burns live series this year than All-Star game. So just seeing him a lot.
it's just due to reps. Yeah, I started like last couple years. Yeah, so like it's just I agree. It's a lot easier to hit somebody once you've seen it that many times. And like it is what it is. And maybe Blackburn's playing well for you because
Yeah.
nobody's seen him before, and we'll see if I doubt he's gonna become meta, so he might stay like underground and hard. And the same thing with like maybe Valenzuela. If you see him a whole bunch, then he like falls off because people get reps with it. But all right, Brev, who you got at 3?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is one of the upsides of Valenzuela is people don't hit against him very often. I think there's definitely an upside to using pitchers that people don't face a lot.
That's why,
Oh, yeah.
dude, if this was a month ago, I still would have told you probably my top 3. Cookie dominated for me.
Who's
Just
that?
unbelievable. Carlos Carrasco. He has a 93, I believe it was.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, 93. And
Yeah.
even though his hits in case per 9 weren't that good, he had 96 control, 94 balls per 9, had one of my lowest ERAs, not named Randy Johnson, 3.8. He was 35-1.
Ooh.
That's wild.
Yeah, that's kind of
I
crazy.
could locate every pitch. He was really quick to the plate, like Corbin Burns, right? He didn't have a long windup or anything like that. Just the game moved with him. So I also felt like that added to what made him so good is you push the tempo on people who may not want that. You just kept pushing and pushing, like, I'm gonna pick a pitch and go, pick a pitch and go. So they never got a chance to really breathe against him.
How often do you quick pitch people?
What do you mean? Like when they need to go to change?
L2? No, L2.
Oh, I
fast
don't do
pitching?
that often. I mean, I only break that out when someone's been bunt dancing or being a dick. So I break it out then. But
Gotcha.
It's really
I
not
almost
even
never
that
slice step.
good.
Yeah.
Your control is going to be terrible when you slide step.
I mean, unless I
Slide-
saw like the pitch before you took an extra step and I went, oh, you're
Yeah.
probably stealing now that you think that I didn't notice that. I will slide step then in almost like an unintentional pitch out where I throw it high in the zone.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes, like, if you're ready for it, it's not that big of a deal. But sometimes you can really catch people slide step and change ups. I don't do it, but people have done that to me, and I'm like, fuck, damn it, that really got me ahead of the pitch. Because usually when I think people slide step, they're gonna try to throw a fastball by me. So I see the slide step, I'm like, fastball, and that's like a change up, and I'm like, oh well, missed that one. That's fun. But yeah, Carrasco, it's a good point about like underrated pitchers. Like you don't see a lot of Mark Pryors on the hump, even though he's got 79 hits per 9. So yeah, there is something to be said like not pitching guys that everybody knows are good because it's gonna be hard to read the new motions.
For sure.
But all right, number 3 for Brev.
My number 3 is Sandy.
Nice.
So Gunsky can hop in here too, but I think the main reason Sandy's good and Corbin is not is one, Sandy's changeup is way better, and also Sandy's slider is way, way, way better than Corbin's. I think Sandy's slider is his best pitch. He throws it up to 92 and it moves a lot. So I think his pitches are just better. And obviously he's got great hits per 9. The one knock on the card is that you get foul balls constantly, but definitely top 3 for me.
Yeah.
I would agree. Sorry, I've been muting my mic if you can't hear the dogs going nuts in the background. But
that's all right.
Yeah.
What do you got 3?
Number 3 for me is going to be Bobby Miller.
Nice.
I like him that much more. And again, I do think he's comparable to Bob Feller, just better control really at the end of the day. I feel like it's completely noticeable. And the main reason as to why, throwing the sinker when everyone's expecting the fastball, keeping them off of it, then throwing the 102, throwing the harder curveball in at times, I wish his slider was like 90. That would have been perfect. But again, it's a good pitch, just to throw people off, not necessarily get weak contact. His control is good enough to make it all work. So I use him in my rotation as like the number 3 guy as the go-to right now.
No, I agree. I got him at number 2. I'm like with Brev. Like all these guys feel almost incredibly the same to me. Like if I would have done Bob Feller / Bobby Miller, it would have been the same. I just like Bobby Miller slightly better due to the walks per 9. So I'm right there with you, Gunsky. You got to main that sinker and then either turn it up or turn it down on them based off that. And Bobby Miller's, the only downside is people have seen him like in events and ranked seasons because he's so cheap, and that's the biggest downside of Bobby Miller is that he's just so famous, right? He's like the old Yogi Berra saying, "Nobody goes there. It's too popular. Nobody goes there anymore." So it's like, it's tough, but that's what. How about all right, Brev? Who you got number 2?
My number 2 is Nolan Ryan.
Nice.
That's why I said he would be if someone's using him correctly. I completely agree with that.
Yeah, it's just same thing with Bobby, but imagine Bobby's changeup is 10 miles an hour slower.
So beautiful.
It's the swing and miss king, which is a valuable commodity this year. I've said it a bunch, but yeah, pitching off the sinker mostly and just being conscious of your opponent's swing timings and trying to play off and mix it up.
Yeah, that's great. All right, you Gunsky, number 2. Are you gonna shock us again?
I mean, no. I mean, it's Sandy Alcantara
Randy Johnson
in the 2 spot.
I gotcha.
Like, I like him in the 2. Again, similar. I think him and Corbin can be comparable, but at the end of the day, I don't necessarily think it's because Sandy's newer. His slight variances in the pitches are what make it drastically different. As slight as they may be, it is night and day what they do. Harder slider. Even though I wish his changeup could be slower, it's okay. It still works well. He locates well. He's somebody right now. Once I have Nolan Ryan, I would think of him as my number 2. But right now, until that moment, I have Sandy as my number 2. I trust the way I'm gonna pitch with him.
Is there an issue with his changeup being his primary, Gunsky?
I don't have any issue with it. I don't use it as if it were his primary. If it were slower, I would, but
yeah. Do you know any issue with the changeup being the primary? Does that affect anything?
Are you speaking to me? Sorry, you cut out.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't. Say
I think it helps. I think pitchers with primary changeups have better control on the changeup. That might be subjective, but I feel like I can put Sandy's changeup anywhere I want. Really, I've even thrown it up and into lefties, and it's hit the spot. So. I think it's good. I usually like primary sliders, primary changeups. I'm usually a fan of it.
Yeah, I didn't know if there's a thing in the game for confidence, if throwing the primary pitch more often or not. I wasn't sure if that's a thing or not. All right, my number 1, which I'm sure you guys have never heard of, Randy Johnson.
Okay. Jandy Ronson.
Yeah, most dominant pitch. Do you think is he the most dominant pitcher in MLB The Show history? Up there with Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's who I'm thinking of, because understanding the time frame at which Randy came out, same time frame Kershaw essentially came out. They were too good for when they were released. But even after all the times that I've seen them, if you pitch with Randy correctly, oh boy.
Yeah.
Keep mixing in that 2-seam. Don't really show the 4-seam, but then you magically do at a random point. You throw that slider in. You throw slurs in the dirt. You keep me honest with splitters in. He's still just hell if used correctly. If you just stay throwing that 102, he's gonna get lit up. You're not being a pitcher. You're just being a thrower at that point. That's why I think the 2-seam on Espino will be interesting to see. If used correctly, how good can he be? That's why I compare him to Randy.
I think Kluber is still the best pitcher ever, but I only say that.
Johnson?
Yeah, I only say that because that was the first year you could use starters out of the pen, and they hadn't balanced stamina yet.
Yeah, fair enough.
So Kluber was extra broken because you saw him every single game essentially. But from a stuff standpoint, I think Randy's the nastiest pitcher ever.
Yeah.
He's like Corbin proof almost in that I really feel like it doesn't matter how many times in a row I face him, like it doesn't make me any more likely to score. Because his pitches can just go so drastically different all over the place at different speeds.
Yeah, and I'll definitely say I've gotten better facing him, but I definitely think he's the one out of any starter. He's the one I want to see the least.
Yeah.
I'd say same. Yeah. Well, that was fun. Gunsky?
Yeah, thanks for having us on, man.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. And then for those of you who are not somehow magically aware, be sure to check out GutFoxx and CBrev on their channels. They did top 10 infielders, top 10 outfielders with yours truly as well. You guys have any parting messages that you guys would like them to know? Where they can find your YouTube, your Twitch?
No, live long and prosper, man.
Thanks for joining our throuple.
That's right. I am the naughty, not nurse, but I am the naughty therapist. But again, their links will be in the description box down below. Thank you guys for watching today's video. If you enjoyed today's content, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe to our channels. You guys have a good day.